Hello, hello. So today, my name is Ollie. This is Red Sun Horizons. I'm an Eastern Physiotherapies practitioner in the south of England. So we have been so far and will continue to be using the Lunar Tao by Denming Dao. So a daily piece of information and a daily practice for each day of each lunar cycle, going through the entire year, which started, as far as China is concerned, started 5 days ago. We are now on day 6. So today is Moon 1, day 6. So effectively, today is the first of, I believe, was it 6? Yes. So from the 6th day through to the 10th day. So it's the first of 4 days where people would now be visiting friends and family. As often as possible, obviously. But the actual reference they put in here is prayer, as in to pray. Prayer means a lot of different things for different people, depending on whether it's just a personal thing from spiritual, for your own spiritual purposes, or whether it's tied to a specific religion. The original meaning of the word prayer, or to pray, is to ask, obviously, like as in pray tell, or I pray thee, etc. But so with one nice little thing that I've read out from here is obviously press your palms together and pray to God in that sense. So obviously Taoism is very much pantheistic, so it believes in many gods, and then you've got the 3 at the top. So the Jade Emperor's advisor, and then the one that came before him, which is now ascended to however high, plus all these other ones. I think we mentioned the kitchen god a couple of days ago. He's one of the ones who reports to the Jade Emperor about human activities, all that kind of thing. There's a huge amount of information there, which we won't go into because it's not my forte, and not enough time. Okay, so with prayer, obviously, that means different things to different people, but ultimately there's different practices and everything else. There's within Christianity, there are specific pre-written prayers, obviously, that you can read and all that kind of stuff. But prayer, I think, is a very personal thing. I don't think it really should be so regimented and controlled. That is one of my gripes with religion in that sense, when it's too much of a practice that is set in stone, and anything outside of that is seen as heretic. Not so much these days, but historically, yes, obviously. Okay, so so I have 3 jobs. One job that I work is, obviously this is my main job, but another job which I have for like more consistent income for paying bills, is working in a crystal shop. So selling crystals, selling spiritual books, and selling everything else from like incense to sound meditation, sound healing, and sound frequency bowls, etc. That kind of stuff. Okay. But yes, we had literally yesterday we had 2 people who were currently here in the south studying through university, and they were from one of the Greek islands, and literally where they live, in that place, in that Greek island that they live, it is still so ingrained or entrenched in Christianity, Catholicism, etc., that anything outside of that, even tarot, is seen as heretic, and would not be be heavily frowned upon, or would be removed. And that's today in 2026. So that's that kind of thing. That's when we talk about prayer, when I'm talking about prayer, and according to this book, again, I like the way that they've kind of so I'm only going to read one section, and that is the way that the page for today finishes. Okay, so when you pray, there is no brand on you that says Taoist, Buddhist, or Confucianist. Don't worry about what kind of prayer you're making. A sincere prayer is far more important than a crafted or dictated one. You're you, a whole person. Give yourself some time to be quiet at the end of each day. If you're faced with a big decision, take refuge in silence. Put your hands together, trust yourself to do the right thing. You will know instantly. And that is effectively it. Yeah, so that's, it's sitting in silence. So some people would say that prayer can be anything. Prayer is more now of an umbrella body, and it can be just literally contemplating. It can be giving thanks. It can be all this kind of stuff. But to me personally, yes, prayer is a way of asking for guidance or asking for something in general. Anything beyond that could be considered meditation, but it's I think that the umbrella body of putting all of it into the word prayer is a little bit of again, wanting to keeping it all within one doctrine, effectively. So really, we're talking about the power of intention. We're talking about the different planes of existence. So the physical plane, everything you can physically see and physically touch, everything that is vibrating low enough to reflect light in the light of the spectrum of light in which we exist, which is like about this much of this much that actually exists. So if you ever see that graph, there's say you've got if this was the spectrum of light, just this line here, you've got all of this over here, all of this over here, and so like the spectrum of light, and then before the spectrum of light, you've got like infrared, and then gammas all the way over here, and then all that kind of stuff, and X-ray, etc. So everything that we see is such a small percentage of what's actually out there that we are existing in, not just out there external from ourselves. We are in it, we are part of it. So you have the physical plane, you have the emotional plane, slightly less dense. We can't physically see it, but we can feel it. And it affects our physicality if emotions are constantly left untethered or unaccepted, unutilized, and then released. The ability to let go, effectively. We will start to see as things when we see like things with fibromyalgia is a very good example of this. If we're constantly in a fight or flight state where our emotions are completely out of sync for that long, it starts to take physical tolls on the body. And it is now accepted that fibromyalgia is an autoimmune disease. Okay, but its origin is emotions. Okay, so you have the physical plane, you have the emotional plane, you then have the mental plane, which is again is a high vibration in itself, but they are all interlinked with each other. This isn't like a hierarchy of one exists, but they're all enmeshed with each other, and because they're all enmeshed with each other, it's a holistic system. So the mental plane can control the emotional plane, and the emotional plane can control the physical plane, and the mental plane can control the physical plane, which is a bit of a higher jump to make, and this is what yogis and people who really practice transcendental meditation are one of the things they are looking to achieve and to aim and to measure progress, etc. Excuse me. So a book I was going to reference from that is one I've just finished rereading. So one of the my indirect teachers through books is Melissa Fike. So this is a practical approach to, a radical approach to the Akashic Records. So she is an Akashic Records reader and has done lots of other systems previous to that. So what I do, some of the stuff I do with crystals is using the 8 extraordinary meridians. So, and a lot of that is tapping into this life, history all the way through from birth to current day, but also tapping into previous life things. So the 8 extraordinary meridians look at the yin chao mai, how you're affected by how you think of yourself now, the yang chao mai, how you think of the outside world now, the yang wei mai, how you used to think of the outside world, the yin wei mai, how you used to think of yourself, and then the ren mai, which is all of your mother relationship, du mai, all of your father relationship, the chong mai, which is effectively like the interface to the bardo state, that is kind of all the information you've brought through from previous life to this life, but all the stuff you've also adopted from your heritage, from all your ancestry, all the stuff that has been stored in your DNA, because we are, so much of us is made of water, and water stores information, as we know, that's proven. And then the last one is the daimai, which is the girdle vessel, which is the pelvic area, which many systems all agree in that sense that it is the main place where we have all this deep-seated trauma stored. It is very much all the skeletons in the closet. It's a big one. It's very much deemed to be Pandora's box, and it should be opened with extreme caution. Okay, so yes, the reason I was referencing this book, so Melissa Fike, she has a really nice explanation for it. Even though she's like, it's about as esoteric as it comes when it comes to things like that. She is the founder of, just so I can get the name of it correct, I can't remember the name of it, but it is the, yeah, so she's the founder of a laboratory that kind of does a lot of investigation into this kind of thing, and has found a way of measuring the human toroidal field and all that kind of stuff. So she explains this really well, and there are obviously, so that because she's got those links and resources, there are pictorial things as well, and it's a whole book to explain what I'm trying to explain in a matter of minutes. But yeah, there is a nice way of explaining the whole physical, emotional, mental, and astral plane. So beyond that. So, and there's probably stuff beyond that as well. Okay, so the very last thing I'm going to put in there is, well, before that. So ultimately, that is the point I'm making, is that if you are, everything you think has influence on everything you feel and everything you are, along a chain of events, however long that takes, but everything you think also goes out into the field itself. So the field is the word that you will find that scientists are now using, or physicists are now using today to explain what many would call consciousness itself. And ultimately, the concept that, and the way I think of it, is that you don't really have thoughts, you experience thoughts. Again, this is like David Hawkins explains this really well. It's that it's the field of all possibility, what the Chinese would call the Wu, has in the Taoist Wu, which is also where we get the term woo-woo from. But the field of all possibility is consciousness itself. It has all the thoughts that are put out there, all the thoughts that are out there. It is the original internet, and it's far bigger than the internet will ever be. So it is where we get thoughts from. If you sat there and you think like, oh, that just came into my mind. Why did it just come into your mind? Your brain's not that complex. Your brain in many ways is, well, your heart, and your brain is your heart is the antenna. This is where we interact with everything through our toroidal field and into other toroidal fields of existence. The brain really is more the center for keeping things going, like involuntary respiration, breathing, bowel function. It stores all your norepinephrine and dopamine and serotonin, all of those neurotransmitters. It is it's the central hub for the biomechanics of the physical, because it is the physical, and all that processing processing speed. You can think of it as a computer effectively. The heart is how we interact with the world. The heart is how we really gain downloads of information from wherever you want to call it. Some call it the void, if you will. But yes, nowadays it's being called, as I said before. So the last bit I want to read, before I really need to get on, is from the Denming Tao. That's the name of the book. So from the Tao Te Ching itself, or the Tao Te Ching, and this is the one I've been wanting to read for. I've been waiting for a day to come along that would actually allow me to read this, but I'm only going to read the last section of it. So this is number 28. Okay, so it says, "The world is formed from the void, like utensils from a block of wood. The master knows the utensils, yet keeps to the block. Thus she can use all things." Okay, so that is kind of a nice way of saying, like, it also comes, Bruce Lee said this, learn the form, then forget the form. You know, to be open and be like water, be expansive. You know, when the time comes, you just react. It's a similar kind of thing. That's not a direct quote from him, but obviously I didn't take time to look it up. But it's yeah. Ultimately, don't limit yourself to anything. Prayer doesn't have to be something that someone else has written and said this is how it's done. Prayer is what you are and what you think and what you feel. It's how you are in this very, very specific moment in time, because a prayer that someone wrote thousands of years ago can't be tailored to where you are now. You specifically, you and your life path. So absolutely that. It can be anything you want, and if you want to set up shrines, if you want to use crystal grids, if you want to do anything like that, it can be personal to you, and nobody should be able to dictate what prayer is to you. It is just a word after all, and that word is just one of the billions upon billions of words and thoughts and programs that exist out there in consciousness itself. So okay, I'm going to stop waffling because I need to get going, and that is today done.